So one of the major concerns for cannabis cultivators has been fluctuations in the price of the raw product. Emily McCormick took a look at why prices have been on such a roller coaster. Let's take a look.
Demand for cannabis is booming. Total global spending on legal cannabis products is estimated to hit $32 billion in 2022, up from $9.5 billion in 2017. To meet that demand, cultivators will need to grow an estimated 6.9 million pounds of dried cannabis flower. It may seem like cannabis is the ultimate cash crop, but piecemeal legalization in the U.S. has resulted in volatile wholesale pricing, presenting a tough problem for U.S. cannabis growers. How can they stay profitable as prohibition gets peeled away? As of 2019, 10 states and the District of Columbia have legalized recreational cannabis use, while more than 30 states allow medical marijuana.
When a new state legalizes cannabis, there's typically a surge in demand that elevates prices of the wholesale flower. Eventually, that trend reverses as more growers come into the market and supply catches up.
Colorado, one of the most mature markets in the country, has been a case study for this phenomenon, with wholesale spot prices plummeting from $4.30 per gram in 2014 to $1.99 per gram in summer 2018. One reason for the slide was the large number of commercial growing licenses issued in Colorado, as well as in Oregon and Washington. Growers flooded the market with an excess supply of cannabis. Pricing trends in these mature markets are a lesson for growers in states on the cusp of legalization. Plan for less revenue in the future. Currently, laws prohibiting interstate commerce of federally illegal products mean that no cannabis can cross state lines, so companies that want to source cheaper cannabis from another state can't. Instead, they have to build every supply chain from the ground up, even in states with geographies less conducive to growing the crops. If federal prohibition gets lifted, interstate commerce and eventually global trade will be in the realm of possibility, broadening the base from which distributors can source their products. That means prices may have further to fall as legalization expands and competition increases. For growers, product differentiation will be key to offsetting the commoditization of cannabis. Unique strains are one way to fend off competition, though generic blends have so far dominated most legal markets. Proprietary cultivation techniques provide another avenue, with outdoor, warehouse, and greenhouse growing methods offering ways to sell crops at a premium to retailers and consumers. Some cannabis growers have already begun moving toward an appellation system similar to the wine market, where producers can demand a premium based on the crop's region of origin.
So there you go, Emily highlighting a little bit of the pressure and uncertainties in the cannabis market today. And who better to weigh in on the ever-changing industry than the heads of some of the most powerful cannabis companies in the world. It's our distinct privilege to introduce the billions of dollars in cannabis market cap we have with us in studio today at the desk, starting with Acreage Holdings Chairman and CEO Kevin Murphy. As chairman, Kevin has overseen the expansion of Acreage to reach 20 U.S. states, representing the largest licensed footprint of any multi-state operator.
Also joining us is Bruce Linton, founder, chairman, and co-CEO of Canopy Growth Corporation. Under Bruce's guidance, the Ontario-based company has achieved capital raises totaling more than $6 billion, including a $4 billion investment from Corona maker Constellation Brands last year. We also have with us Joseph Lusardi, CEO of Curaleaf, a leading U.S. vertically integrated multi-state operator. Last month, Curaleaf announced a $950 million acquisition of Cura Partners Select brand, which would create the world's largest cannabis company by revenue.
And last but not least, Charlie Bachtell, the founder and CEO of Cresco Labs. Based in Chicago, U.S. multi-state operator Cresco Labs posted revenue growth of 313% last quarter, one of the fastest clips in the space. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on this desk. And since we all have you here in one spot, which is a rarity kind of in it of itself, we wanted to do something a little bit different with this segment. So you've heard about being in the hot seat, of course, but this time around on the business of cannabis, we found it only fitting to put you guys in the blazing hot box. The rules are very simple. Everybody will write down their answers to very simple questions on the whiteboard in front of you as quickly as you can. before. There it is. We made it graphic. You will reveal your question at the same time. No cheating. Gentlemen, let's begin. Question 1. When will marijuana become legal on a federal level in the U.S.?
Legal. Medically or rec?
Let's say recreational.
Full
We're gonna need a
federal
definition.
prohibition.
Yeah, you know how to spell. How do you spell it?
Really legal, federally permissible.
Oh my goodness gracious. We got a lot of questions. We got lawyers. You guys have lawyers, don't
How
you?
did you know I love whiteboards?
Here, how about you guys can answer the questions as you see fit. Put the date in there, and then we can discuss out of that why you think the date is what it is. But don't take too long because we've only got about 10 seconds per question here.
Okay.
All right, so on the count of 3, we will reveal our answers to question 1. When will the U.S. federally legalize marijuana in the country? And we've got a couple different answers here.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm optimistic.
2021,
There we go.
2020, 2022.
2020.
Let's start with 2022 because that's the longest time frame. So that's what you're saying. 2022.
Yeah, I think the first and most natural evolution is the States Act. We'll make it a federalist approach, let the states make their own policy. I think the actual full legalization of cannabis is some ways off. There are still a lot of flyover states, conservative states that want to take their own approach to cannabis, and so I think any rational approach will start with the state's approach and then work its way up to a full federal rescheduling. And I think it's probably 24 to 36 months out best.
And how much will the results of the 2020 election potentially change your mind on that?
Double question.
Well, I think it's clear. I think we'll all agree
Write it
that
down.
the electorate is going to go to the ballot box and continue to vote for cannabis laws. It's going to get more popular every single month, and so I suspect we'll have more medical states, we'll have more recreational states in 2020, and the pressure will mount on the federal government to address this issue.
All right, that went a lot more smoothly than I thought it would for question 1.
All right, question 2. What will be the next U.S. state to legalize aside from Illinois?
Can't give you Illinois because that's an easy one. So everyone has to choose a state other than Illinois, since that is now just pending the governor's signature, as the state legislature has already passed that. So the next state to legalize marijuana in the U.S., we should say.
Yes, in the U.S.
I didn't look. Oh.
No cheating. We made this very clear from the get-go. All right, and I think we're good. We're going to close that in.
No cheating, no cheating. Across the table.
All right, the next state to be approved. Okay, everyone's on the same board again.
Okay.
Close.
Okay.
All right.
So sort of 50-50.
Yeah, New Jersey or New York.
Joe gives double answers too.
It's going to be real close.
Bruce, you're the resident Canadian here, so New York.
So New York's been really progressive and focused on how to manage the hemp file. And I think that the hemp file being managed properly is probably going to make a very good example for how they can actually start to bring into the regulated stream cannabis. And so it just feels like when order arrives, people are going to want to see a system and then want it applied across all possibilities of the plant.
You're from New York. I feel like that would be your backwoods.
It is, and I think that if we can move forward on the social issues surrounding the space, of which I think New York is doing a very good job of doing it, that's what I believe leads to basically an adult use New York state.
All right, so far, none of these questions have really gotten us answers that different from either one of you. So let's move along. Question 3 might bring that. What will the average wholesale price of marijuana per gram be in 2020? Per gram is what we're looking at. And also, the other thing, too, is we've noticed before, there are some discrepancies when we talk about units of measurement amongst the U.S. and Canadian. So let's just make sure everyone knows it's grams here.
In U.S. dollars.
In U.S. dollars.
No,
So everyone
mine's
has to do
Canadian.
conversions. That's why we gave you whiteboards, because there's a lot of numbers to be carried over. All right, so I think we're locked in. The wholesale price of marijuana in 2020.
See?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Well, it looks like, Charlie, you're on the high end, $7. Justify.
I think you have a blend across the country, right, of states that have limited licenses versus states that don't. And so you're going to see a lower price per gram in states that have sort of the unlimited license structure than you do in the highly regulated, compliance-focused states, primarily east of the Mississippi. So it's almost a sort of a geographical divide. West of the Mississippi, cheaper. East of the Mississippi, more expensive.
Great. Well, that answer works for me. And question 4.
Wow.
What's the
Solid
biggest threat facing the cannabis industry today?
Yes, the biggest threat.
Biggest threat. Yes.
Second to last question, we should say.
Biggest threat.
Suddenly got very quiet on set. People very nervous about question 4. All right, we'll wrap up here, and then we've got one more question for you. Please save the ink and your pens. We're on a budget. here. All right, question 4. What's the biggest threat facing the cannabis industry, gentlemen? Okay, a lot of words. Okay. Black market consistency, is that
Execution?
Execution.
and public policy.
Yeah,
Right.
a lot of different answers.
Yeah, I don't know which one. Let's start with black market.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think what we're all trying to do, particularly in the U.S., is convert people from the illicit market to the legal market. And I think that the faster the states move and create regulated tax frameworks, the better our companies will do. And the slower they move, the black market will continue to proliferate. So really, I guess it's a combination of legislature and administration is doing their job, but ultimately the black market, frankly, is our biggest competitor. We don't view each other as competitors, frankly. We think this is an industry that we can all build and prosper from.
And safety being a big part of that as well. You talk about public policy, making sure that everything's safe.
Public policy. Do we have a testing standard? And I'm talking globally. Do we have it for hemp even nationally? Do we have a public policy that isolates sick children so they have to fight through for 2 years before they can actually get access in the UK? That's what they have right now. So the policy is not actually working for the patients. It's not working for the businesses. And so what we have as a risk is they move too slowly to make a proper platform, and you can't execute in that kind of weak environment.
Well, and truthfully, there's a common thread between, I think, the three of our answers, right? Consistency, execution, public policy. It's incumbent upon the operators to make sure that the products, that we're meeting the expectations of what it means to be a national industry, similar to consumer packaged goods, where you need quality, consistency, and availability. So if we fail to execute, if there's not consistency, you'll have public policy issues.
All right, last question, gentlemen. In the Blazing Hot Box, we spent a lot of money on this graphic, so I want to just mention that. Question 5, we're going to bring it home. Biggie Smalls once said, never get high on your own supply. So question 5 is, do you use cannabis products? And if so, which ones? It's a big question.
Big answers.
Big answers. Although all the answers so far have been very similar, so we could have just gotten one big whiteboard.
This is true.
All right. We're going to lock that in because we're running out of time. The question being, do you use cannabis products? And if so, which ones? Gentlemen, putting you on the legal spot. I'm not a cop. Right. I'm not a cop. Not in a long time. Yes, CBD.
Nice. Sport and travel. Yes.
And yes.
I'm a yes.
Yeah.
I'm a yes. And I would say that being introduced to cannabis in 2011, I had virtually no interest in cannabis. I was actually a naysayer. But when I was convinced of the medicinal value of cannabis, and in particular the CBD side of the business, and then being able to tailor it to my needs and the needs of others. So I'm a high CBD, low THC user for sleep. And really, from my vantage point, it has worked wonders in my family with my mother-in-law who has Alzheimer's, and just to see this miraculous plant work, I'm all in with both feet.
Yeah. And you guys highlighted that too with your.
I believe deeply in the product as well. We served 56,000 unique medical patients. We've seen amazing benefits from cannabis, and I actually benefit myself from CBD, so I'm a huge believer in the product. We're trying to push a national CBD program, and it's something that I think more mainstream consumers will use every month. I think it's really an amazing product.
Well, we have spent time answering industry questions. We're going to take time to dig into everyone's businesses a little bit deeper and focus on you guys individually later on in the show, but that will do it for the Blazing Hot Box. Thank you guys so much for playing along.